Hello there, welcome to Planet America. I'm John Barron.
I'm Licciardello.
This week, the second attempt on Donald Trump's life and racist attacks on Haitian immigrants.
And in both cases, can words lead to violence? We're going to ask an expert. But first...
For the second time in just over 2 months, former President Donald Trump has been the apparent target of an assassination attempt. This time while playing a round of golf at his club in West Palm Beach, Florida.
We begin with breaking news tonight. Former President Donald Trump is safe and well after what the FBI is calling an apparent second attempted assassination.
A Secret Service agent who was checking the course ahead of Trump allegedly saw an AK-47 style assault rifle poking through a fence and fired at the gunman just before 2 p.m. local time on Sunday. The would-be assassin was unharmed and escaped in a vehicle. His number plate was photographed by a witness, then quickly tracked and caught by local police.
We got a hold of Martin County Sheriff's Office, alerted them, and they spotted the vehicle and pulled it over and detained the guy.
The guy was soon identified, although there's no need for us to name him. He is a 58-year-old white male. His public records and social media accounts reveal that he's had at least 100 run-ins with police over his lifetime, including a charge of possession of a weapon of mass destruction. A machine gun was once found during a search of his home when he lived in North Carolina. Donald Trump is blaming the assassination on the Democrats, though, posting,
"The rhetoric lies as exemplified by the false statements made by Comrade Kamala Harris during the rigged and highly partisan ABC debate has taken politics in our country to a whole new level of hatred, abuse, and distrust. Because of this communist left rhetoric, the bullets are flying and it will only get worse."
And Trump's campaign released an ad calling Harris and the Democrats the party of violence. And Trump also claimed both his would-be assassins were leftists.
And it seems that both of these people were radical lefts.
But that is not a statement of known facts. While the FBI has yet to declare a motive in the case of the July shooter, they have revealed that he searched online for events of both Trump and President Joe Biden. And the politics of the most recent accused are complicated, to say the least. After tweeting that Trump was his choice in 2016, by 2020 he was accusing Trump of getting worse and devolving, adding, "I will be glad when you gone." The alleged gunman donated a total of $140 to a Democratic Political Action Committee, which included donations to Tulsi Gabbard, who's now a Trump supporter, Andrew Yang, Tom Steyer, Beto O'Rourke, and Elizabeth Warren. And before his Twitter account was suspended this week, his tweets did reveal that he'd backed a ticket involving former Republican presidential primary candidates Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley. He frequently posted on social media about the war in Ukraine as well. He had a website where he sought to raise money and recruit volunteers to go with him to Kyiv to join the fight against the Russian invasion. And according to investigative reporter Victoria Bronwart, he also has a history of mental illness, and his Facebook page is full of COVID conspiracies, which probably tells us more than who he voted for. But as for who was ultimately responsible, Florida Republican Mike Waltz blames critics of Trump.
This rhetoric against President Trump, this narrative that he will be the next dictator, that he is the next Hitler coming, it has got to stop. Enough is enough. Stop it on the left for doing this.
Utah's Republican Senator Mike Lee also accused the left in general for wanting Trump dead. Far-right podcaster Candace Owens wildly speculated that everything about this shooter's background reeks of a criminal-turned-federal asset in prison. But perhaps the most reckless reaction came from the richest person on earth, Elon Musk. In response to a tweet asking why they want to kill Donald Trump, Musk observed, "And no one is even trying to assassinate Biden/Kamala," seeming to imply perhaps that either the Democrats are behind attempts to kill Trump or maybe lamenting that nobody's targeted the Democrats. Musk has since deleted that tweet, claiming that it was a joke, but not before it received millions of impressions. Perhaps it's time that Elon's Twitter account was suspended too.
You should talk to the boss. Look, for what it's worth, I actually took that tweet from Elon as him sarcastically implying that no one wants to target Biden or Harris because they're insipid and not a threat to anyone. But, you know, Each their own, I guess.
Yeah, whatever he said, shouldn't have said it. My favourite take, though, came from author and journalist Michael Harriott. He said, first Butler, Pennsylvania, now Palm Beach, Florida. When will the leaders of the white community do something about the white-on-white violence in white neighbourhoods? So, a tip of the hat to him.
Look, I do want to acknowledge that the alleged would-be assassin did write on social media that democracy is on the ballot. And that's a phrase that Biden and Harris have used often. But on that whole rhetoric question, I think we really should note that Trump's a pretty frequent offender himself. He said of the shooter, he believed the rhetoric of Biden and Harris and he acted on it. Their rhetoric is causing me to be shot at when I'm the one who's going to save the country and they're the ones that are destroying the country, both from the inside and out. It's called the enemy from within. They are the real threat. That's a pretty black pot at the end there, John. Having said that, this is a fraught area. Look, they're in the middle of a presidential campaign at the moment. Candidates need to be able to criticise each other stridently. Just ask J.D. Vance when he was talking about whether his rhetoric bears any responsibility for bomb threats in Springfield, Ohio.
But we don't believe, Margaret, in a heckler's veto in this country. You can condemn violence on the one hand while also saying that there have been terrible problems caused by Kamala Harris's open border in Springfield. I think that we should ignore these ridiculous psychopaths who are threatening violence on a small Ohio town and focus on the fact that we have a vice president who's not doing her job in protecting that small Ohio town.
Now, I actually agree with that, J.D. Vance, right there. You do need to be able to criticise violence and your opponent at the same time. It's just a shame that J.D. Vance has the direct opposite view as the J.D. Vance who's talking about threats against Trump.
The left needs to tone down the rhetoric and needs to cut this crap out. Somebody's going to get hurt by it.
But look, there are some things that we can all agree on, hopefully, like this, for instance, is not acceptable.
You got to understand the golf course is surrounded by shrubbery, so when somebody gets into the shrubbery, they're pretty much out of sight. All right? And at this level that he is at right now, he's not the sitting president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around it. Well, because he's not, the security is limited to the areas that the Secret Service deems possible.
Now, giving Trump full Secret Service protection has got to be the biggest no-brainer in the history of politics. Let's hope that happens.
Yeah, although he could maybe meet them halfway and stop playing golf on public courses. When Obama was president, he played on military bases, like the golf course at Andrews Air Force Base. You can secure that. You can't secure Donald Trump's golf club, which is on a highway.
OK, that's fair enough. Why don't we compromise, get Trump to exercise by playing Dance Dance Revolution? There we go. One thing about the assassination attempts on Trump, they have managed to unite the right and the left in equally ridiculous conspiracy theories. You might think that this latest attempted assassination was carried out by a lone gunman, but oh no, that's just what they want you to believe.
Who was really behind Donald Trump's assassination attempts?
This was a deep state attempted murder of Trump.
The deep state.
I think the Democrats are behind the attempt on Donald Trump's life.
The Democrats.
The CIA, the FBI, the Department of Justice, Goldman Sachs, Google, they all want him to not become president.
Everyone.
Who is it that wants Trump dead? Why do they want Trump dead? Hillary Clinton has never met a war that she didn't like, okay? Nikki Haley is high on war.
Notorious duo, Hillary Clinton and Nikki Haley.
Time Magazine's legit Instagram posted this 5 days ago. It says, "In trouble," it shows Trump on his golf cart.
Was it Time Magazine?
I believe Zelensky is evil. I believe he's a homosexual, evil man.
Evil gay Zelensky? Or maybe?
I thought it was magnificently staged. It was professionally done. It almost looked real.
Wait. Staged by who?
Oh, by Mr. Trump, of course.
Trump did it himself. But the biggest mystery.
How did they know that Trump was golfing? Right, Trump has not put that out publicly. This was not some part of his schedule. Somebody provided that information about him golfing.
How did they know a man who golfs every day would be golfing that day? The truth is out there.
And speaking of strange and possibly dangerous conspiracy theories, this was perhaps the most memorable moment in Donald Trump's debate loss to Kamala Harris last week.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
It seemed absurd, and it was. Police and local officials say there is no evidence pets are being eaten by Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, or anywhere else.
We have not been able to verify any credible reports or specific claims of pets being harmed.
Yet some Springfield residents say they do believe the related rumour about wild ducks and geese being caught by Haitians for food.
That's why you have them going to Snyder Park and chopping off ducks' heads in front of little kids and stuff.
Again, no credible evidence that ever happened. And it is worth noting it is legal to hunt ducks and geese in Ohio, but if you do it out of the usual October to December season or in the wrong way, you can face up to 30 days in jail and a $250 fine. Meanwhile, Springfield's Haitian community leaders say they're being made to feel a bit unsafe now.
People, high-ranking people in power, should try to control their narrative, their rhetoric, because what they say can affect an entire country, can affect a community, can affect mental health of people, especially a vulnerable group of people. So we believe in humanity. We believe that they can do better.
Finally, a voice of reason. And there have already been real-world consequences following Trump's debate comments. Springfield City Hall was forced to evacuate due to a bomb threat. So were 2 schools. 2 hospitals were locked down on the weekend, and then another 2 schools were evacuated. Ohio's Republican Governor Mike DeWine says there is evidence these bomb threats are coming from overseas in an attempt to create more division.
These threats have all been hoaxes. None of them have panned out. We have people, unfortunately, overseas who are taking these actions.
Despite the threats and proof this is a myth, Trump, unsurprisingly, remains unrepentant.
Well, that's come from stories, it's come from television, and some of the pets, I don't know, cats, dogs, or both, but some of the pets were taken by the migrants, and it's a shame.
Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, has been talking about Springfield for months and claims it's up to the media to investigate. Vance even acknowledging the claims may be false.
Now, maybe all of these constituents are lying to me, but I would appreciate if the American media showed up and did some real investigation rather than amplifying the worst people in the world. Why is somebody calling it a bomb threat, Margaret? It's because they want attention.
They want attention, just like the people making these claims without evidence, including Vance and Trump. Mission accomplished, I suggest, Chaz.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for, though, JD. The more journalists look into Vance's concerns, the less he'd like the results. For instance, there was this Facebook post that he referenced at one point, supposedly about how someone's neighbour's daughter's friend, yes, that's right, someone's neighbour's daughter's friend, came home from work one day to see her cat hanging from a branch like you do a deer for butchering, and some Haitians were carving it up to eat. Well, journalists looked into that post and they tracked down the neighbour who said, I don't actually know the person who lost the cat, but the cat owner was an acquaintance of a friend. And the neighbour's friend said she'd heard that story about the acquaintance from another source that she had. So that sounds all very reliable. Then there was this picture of a black person holding a dead goose. Well, not only is that person not necessarily Haitian, that picture was taken in a different city, and the Ohio Division of Wildlife said that the guy was actually picking up 2 geese that had been hit by a car. But wait, what about all those 911 calls? We know of at least 1 call about Haitians with geese. Well, turns out the Ohio Department of Natural Resources received 2 calls about individuals of Haitian descent, apparently taking waterfowl out of Snyder Park. That is 2 in total on record. On both occasions, no supporting evidence was found of wildlife being illegally removed. So that's the end of that. So much for all that evidence. Well, what about testimony? This lady's speech went viral last week.
But it is so unsafe. I have men that cannot speak English in my front yard screaming at me, throwing mattresses in my front yard, throwing trash in my front yard. And I can't. Look at me, I weigh 95 pounds. I couldn't defend myself if I had to. My husband is elderly, and last night, after living in this home for 45 years, he said, Noelle, guess what? It's time to pack up and move.
Now, obviously something went wrong for her, but this week she made very clear that what went wrong wasn't pets or geese being eaten.
I did not mean to bring any ill will. And about the ducks and the cats, I'm the crazy cat lady in my town, and I'm not missing any. Everybody's present and accounted for. And if they were coming up out of our park with geese or ducks, I would be one of the first people to see it. I'm telling you, it's not happening.
Okay, so where did all these stories come from then? We don't really know, but we do know that a neo-Nazi group has taken credit for the rumours, saying the news cycle is finally blowing up on something we've been at for weeks and weeks. Some bigger accounts on Twitter have even poached some of our material. Who are these neo-Nazis, you might ask? Well, they're these guys going out for a little stroll around Springfield a month ago. Don't they look nice? One of them spoke at a city meeting recently as well.
I've come to bring a word of warning. Stop what you're doing before it's too late. Crime and savagery will only increase with every Haitian you bring in.
If you can't trust those guys, who can you trust? Now, to be clear, that doesn't mean there aren't problems in Springfield. Governor Mike DeWine has noted, for instance, how much the local Haitians are struggling with their driving. This is him talking about their driving exams.
There's about 17% pass rate. That is a very, very low pass rate if you look at what we have normally throughout the state of Ohio. And so what we are seeing is people who are not familiar with driving, not familiar with English, and then they just keep coming back. And there's nothing to stop them from coming back day after day after day after day, and finally they pass the test. It doesn't mean they're a better driver.
But all the stats suggest that Haitians are a notoriously well-integrated community. They often go to church, they're hard workers, and if we look at recent incarceration rates, native-born Americans there at the top are incarcerated at about 6 times the rate of legal Haitians on the bottom there. These people are legal migrants, by the way, legal. So all these stories have just been villainising people who are largely just trying to get on with their lives. So why would anyone do that? Maybe it's related to 55% of people now favouring reducing immigration rates, the highest number in 23 years. Other polls have found over half of Americans favouring mass deportations of undocumented immigrants. Another record. Maybe the details don't matter for Trump and the Republicans, as long as we're all talking about deporting scary migrants all the way to the election.
I can say this, we will do large deportations from Springfield, Ohio. Large deportations. We're going to get these people out. We're bringing them back to Venezuela.
They're from Haiti, Donald, not Venezuela.
Yeah, although didn't he say that he was going to go to Venezuela if he lost the election? Lots of Haitians there. For more on the latest apparent attempt on Donald Trump's life and the possible role of heated rhetoric in the violence that we've been seeing in this election campaign, we're joined by Katherine Keneally. She's Director of Threat Analysis and Prevention at the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, an independent organisation working to reverse the rise of extremism and disinformation. Katherine, thanks for joining us on Planet America.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, Katherine, were you surprised that there has been a second apparent assassination attempt against former President Trump this week?
I am surprised in the fact that we just experienced an assassination attempt very recently. However, we've been experiencing a very volatile political threat environment over the last really several years or so now. So, in looking at it through that sort of lens, I am unfortunately not particularly surprised that this has happened again.
And do you think we should see what happened on Sunday as a security success story because they caught the guy without him getting a shot off? Or should we see it as a security embarrassment because the guy got as close as he did to Trump with an AK-47?
I mean, I think it's both, right? it worked out very well that there was someone from Secret Service who was ahead of Trump on the whole, who saw the firearm and who was able to disable the threat. However, there were, of course, some security missteps. The perimeter had not been, checked leading up to former President Trump playing golf there. The individual who, was there with the firearm had been there for around 12 hours or so. And so there were security missteps, and this probably could have been much worse. However, there were also some successes.
And Katherine, Trump and his supporters have blamed Democrats, including Kamala Harris, for their rhetoric, saying that Trump is trying to destroy American democracy, for inciting this kind of violence. Do you believe that that kind of language can lead to this kind of attempted violence?
Language used by anyone with a microphone has the potential to have an impact. I've said this many times that words do matter. However, we have seen this sort of language across the political aisle, using language that suggests that particular candidates or even public officials who are currently in office are existential threats and are contributing to this broader threat environment. This is, yes, it's the second assassination attempt on former President Trump, but at the same time, we have observed a number of arrests related to threats to Vice Presidents Kamala Harris and other Democrats as well.
So are you saying that the issue is not so much specific rhetoric directed at a particular individual, so much as the general tone of the rhetoric raising the heat everywhere?
So it's a couple of things. I think it's an oversimplification to say that, one person's words causes someone to go and take a gun and try and kill a former president. What we have seen is that this current political threat environment has been inspired by not just the volatile language, but conspiracy theories, the spread of false information online, the rise of domestic violence extremist groups in our country. And it's this combination of characteristics that is influencing these sorts of threats.
And Katherine Keneally, in your view, do these attacks against former President Trump make possible revenge attacks against his political rivals more likely as a result?
So there's always a concern that there would be some sort of retaliation. We do, after attacks, see mentions online, particularly from violence extremist groups, questioning whether retaliatory violence is necessary or whether, that's something that should be considered. However, I think it would be, again, an oversimplification to say that this is likely to result in a tit-for-tat sort of situation where what we're seeing is that the reasons why people are, choosing political violence is much more complicated.
Now, we shouldn't forget the first assassination attempt. There were a whole string of security failures leading up to that. Are you satisfied with what the various investigations into the first assassination attempt have dug up so far, or are there still concerns left to be addressed in your view?
I have a law enforcement analyst background. I worked at the New York City Police Department's Intelligence Bureau for several years, and I trust and believe that the FBI is conducting the investigation to the highest standards. But, investigations take time. And so it's difficult being patient. It will take time for us to get all of the answers, especially because the suspect, the attacker, is deceased. And so there's just some things that we will never know. But the FBI is certainly, I believe, doing everything that they can to ensure that they know exactly what happened that day and what needs to be improved.
And finally, Katherine, can I get your thoughts on this anti-immigrant misinformation, urban myths being peddled online and in the real world by Trump and Vance about Haitian immigrants eating cats and dogs in Springfield, Ohio? And as well, the suggestion that foreign actors may be involved in fomenting more unrest by making these bomb threats. What do you think of all that?
Yeah, what we're seeing in Springfield, which I want to note is absolutely horrific. What we're seeing happen to this community is very much representative of this problem that people have been blowing the whistle on for years. And that is that the false information that people spread, both online and offline by people with big microphones, has a real world impact. These narratives, what people are saying, does not necessarily stay online. And what we're currently experiencing is that, driven by this false information, which multiple individuals from local and state governments in Ohio have discredited these absolutely terrible claims, has resulted in people engaging in offline activities. We've seen several domestic violent extremist groups travel to the city and engage in protests and, are intended to intimidate members of the Haitian community. And it's absolutely horrific. But it's not occurring, it's not an isolated incident. This is something that has been occurring for quite some time. It's just this time it's on the national stage.
Katherine Keneally, thanks for being with us on Planet America.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
This week, 3 more charges against Donald Trump and his allies for allegedly interfering in the 2020 election in the state of Georgia were dropped. But Judge Scott McAfee upheld the central part of the indictment against Trump, that of racketeering. This case has certainly thrown a spotlight on Georgia's controversial racketeering or RICO laws. With more on that, here's Melina Wicks in the briefing room.
It's been a year since that famous mugshot. Happy anniversary! And the sprawling RICO charges against Trump in Georgia are going nowhere, with romantic affairs, endless appeals, and a presidential immunity ruling all throwing it into doubt. But if you think that sounds like a huge mess, you should see the other RICO case they're running in Fulton County. That would be the one against chart-topping rapper Young Thug.
What does rap star Young Thug have in common with former President Donald Trump? On the surface, not much. But they're actually both being prosecuted in Fulton County, Georgia, by Fani Willis on racketeering charges.
They've got nothing in common except RICO charges and a love of colourful hats. RICO is the law against racketeering, a scheme to make money from illegal activities. Fani Willis alleges Young Thug's record label, YSL, is not just a music group, but a criminal gang doing lots of criminal things. A charge that Young Thug, seen here associating with infamous gangster Elton John, denies. But Georgia's RICO law is incredibly broad, and Fani Willis likes that law.
RICO is a tool that allows a prosecutor's office and law enforcement to tell the whole story. And so we use it as a tool so that they can have all the information they need to make a wise decision.
That information includes evidence that wouldn't be crimes on their own. So Young Thug's alleged racketeering activity includes drug and weapons possession, but also social media posts and lyrics from his songs. Or as they say in Fulton County,
I think if you decide to admit your crimes over a beat, I'm gonna use it.
Yes, all song lyrics are 100% literal statements of fact. That's how we learned John Lennon was actually a very talented walrus. RICO cases are complicated by design. Rather than charging an individual with a crime, they seek to tie a whole network of people accused of a wide range of crimes into a single cohesive case. But trying people together doesn't make it go faster.
Young Thug's trial is already the longest in Georgia history. The jury selection process alone took nearly 10 months.
It hasn't gotten better since, with the trial repeatedly going off the rails. They're onto their third judge after the first 2 had to recuse themselves. A co-defendant was stabbed in jail. And a key prosecution witness got caught admitting, "I have never been truthful a day in my life until I just made this statement right now." How is the most farcical case in Fulton County not the one that involves Rudy Giuliani? Meanwhile, Young Thug has been waiting in jail for over 2 years. This case has gotten so out of control, it's brought the entire Georgia justice system to a standstill, with more than 6,000 cases waiting to be heard. That doesn't just affect defendants stuck in jail. It also affects victims of crime waiting for their day in court. These big, sprawling RICO cases may help prosecutors tell the whole story, but for the people affected by it, it's more like a story delivered by the worst person at a party. No end in sight. As for rap lyrics being used as evidence of a crime, if you're gonna do that, at least go after the worst offender.
And that is it for another trip to Planet America. We'll see you back here at the same time next week.
If you can't wait that long, we're going to have a fireside chat on ABC News on Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Bye-bye.